When most of us think of Cupertino, we don't think of a drug problem. Are drugs a reality in Cupertino? Hi, I'm Susan Robinson. Today we'll find out the answer to these and other questions as we join Deputy Sheriff Collette Van Duyne today on Take 53.
My mother said I was too much trouble. She threw me out. It's pretty terrible out here. I wish I could go back home if they take me. I just don't know what else to do.
Wherever you are, Covenant House can get you help. Call us on the 9 line. It's free. 1-800-999-9999.
Covenant House.
Hey, Brian. So, listen, you want to get high? I got some great stuff.
No, thanks, Mike. That junk's bad news.
Smart kid. He doesn't need that stuff. Nobody does. I'm McGruff, the crime dog. Now, watch these kids.
I'm bored. Why don't we get wasted?
Why don't you get real?
I've got a better idea. Why don't you get lost?
See that? It's happening everywhere. So, if anyone ever wants to turn you on, just turn them off. It's a great way to help take a bite out of crime.
Welcome back to Take 53. I'm Susan Robinson. Today we're focusing on the part Cupertino's playing in the war on drugs. Joining me is Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department's Collette Van Duyne. Collette, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for asking me here.
First of all, what does your current position in the Sheriff's Department involve?
Currently I'm assigned to the Crime Prevention Unit. I do neighborhood watches for all of our contract cities in our unincorporated areas. And for Cupertino, I teach DARE, which is an acronym for Drug Abuse Resistance Education. I teach child safety in the schools, bicycle safety. I go to junior high and high schools and give drug abuse presentations talking about different drugs, long, short-term effects, consequences. I'm on the Cupertino Drug Council, I'm on the SARB, School Attendance Review Board, and I'm on the CART, Children at Risk team. So I'm pretty involved with the city of Cupertino in a lot of areas.
That is pretty involved. You mentioned that you're on the Cupertino Drug Abuse Council. What's the objective of that council, and what are some projects that you work on?
The objective of the council is to assess and identify if there is a problem with drug abuse in the city of Cupertino, and to begin implementing prevention programs. There's people on the council that work throughout the community, business people. Laura Lee Sorensen is one of the key people that started the Cupertino Drug Council. She's the intervention prevention specialist with the Cupertino Unified School District. It's now being chaired by Kathy Nellis. So you have a lot of expertise and a lot of people from different walks in the community who are on the board. And that's what we're attempting to do at this time.
Great. What part do you play in that group as an actual sheriff's deputy?
I have a lot of information because I have access to statistics and the beat officers that actually work the streets of Cupertino, and with all the information and resources that I have, I can provide them with what we're seeing in law enforcement, trends that we're seeing, arrests that are being made, that we're seeing out in the city of Cupertino.
Great. You also mentioned Project DARE, and I know that deals directly with the drug problem in our city schools. Can you tell me a little bit more about DARE and the objective of that program?
DARE is a project that began in 1983 through the cooperation of Los Angeles Unified School District and the Los Angeles Police Department, and DARE stands for Drug Abuse Resistance Education, and it's focused on 5th and 6th graders. We feel that the 7th through 10th grades are the crucial years, so we try to get them before they get to that age. And I go into the classroom in uniform but without a gun, and we talk about personal safety. We identify drugs, their symptoms, consequences. We talk about why people use drugs. We talk about alternatives to drug abuse. We do a lot of role playing. We talk about how the media influences us. A lot of things come out of the class. It's an opportunity for the kids to see a police officer in a different light other than giving a ticket or arresting a parent or a family member. They're able to, I do a lot of bonding with the kids because they open up after, it's a 17-week program. So there's a lot of time that I spend with the kids, and I get to know them quite well. And I play with them on the playground, and I have a dare box that they are able to ask me questions without signing their names, and I get some pretty heartbreaking questions in the dare box. But at the end of 17 weeks, we culminate in a graduation ceremony, and parents are invited, and the children do skits on what they've learned in dare. And I think it's, in my opinion, one of the best programs I have ever seen, and I hope that it spreads throughout the United States.
So you mentioned the children's response to you is more positive than in other settings. What about the parents? How do the parents react to this program?
The parents that attend the graduation ceremony are very positive. I get to know them as well, and I've been stopped several times when I'm driving around by parents who want to thank me for teaching DARE. I think that parents don't have a lot of information about drugs and what kinds of problems the kids will be facing later on in their school years. And we give the children, we educate them, and we give them a lot of skills, refusal techniques, so that when they do hit the critical years, they're armed with a lot of information, and we tell them how to. You can't just say no. It's a lot more involved than that. But we teach them that people that abuse drugs often have poor self-esteem, and how to boost their own self-esteem and how to be more productive.
You mentioned refusal techniques. That sounds interesting to me. Do you actually role play with the children how to refuse drugs?
We do a lot of role playing, not just the refusal techniques, but we talk about how to be assertive. I show an example of aggressive and passive, and then show an example of being assertive. They do skits on media. They have to give a commercial, an anti-drug commercial. There's 8 ways to say no, and each of the kids have an opportunity to get up and say no. And the role playing is so important because it gives them a chance not only to learn, but then to do, and they absorb and they retain much better when they get involved.
It sounds like a great program. How many schools do you deal with, and how many officers do you have covering the schools?
I'm the only DARE officer for the county of Santa Clara, but hopefully that's going to change. I understand that they're considering at least one more, possibly more than one more officer to come into the crime prevention unit and also teach DARE. In the schools in Cupertino, I'm currently teaching DARE at Fremont Older, Garden Gate, and Stevens Creek Elementary, and scheduled for the second part of the school year is St. Joseph's, which is my first private school, and Blue Hills in Collins Elementary.
Okay, great. We need to take a break, but when we return, we'll talk about how you can recognize a drug problem in a family member or a friend.
Okay, kids, I'm here to teach you something really important, and you gotta remember it because I'm gonna test you on it later. Now listen carefully, here we go. Drinking and driving don't mix. Did you hear what I said? Anybody who drinks alcohol should not drive a car. Nobody, under any circumstance, should drink and drive. It's dangerous and could cause a crash. I'm back with a pop quiz. Now, what were you supposed to remember? That's right. Drinking and driving don't mix. You passed. Now go see if your parents do.
Oh, isn't she special, Bob? Look at those eyes.
Congratulations, Bob. Wonderful. You've got a lot on the line. Don't blow it with cocaine. For your health, from the American Medical Association.
And welcome back to Take 53. I'm Susan Robinson, here with Deputy Sheriff Collette Van Duyne, dealing with the issue of the war on drugs in Cupertino. We're back. One thing I wanted to ask you before we got into what to look for in your teens to know if there is an addiction problem is what other problems are we seeing in our community as a result of the drug problem?
We're seeing an increase in drug use. We're seeing some satanic activity, satanic graffiti, churches broken into. We're seeing gang activity. Especially this school year has started out, we're seeing a dramatic increase in gang activity. So we're having some problems that have us concerned.
So we are noticing it in other areas of the city. And closer to home, what should parents look for? What are the signs that they should note in their teens and preteens to note an addiction problem?
If your teen or child, it doesn't necessarily have to be a teen, if your child is having extreme mood swings, their grades are dropping, truancy problem, become very secretive, stay out late, sleep a lot, or don't sleep at all, those are signs that something could be wrong. You should be alarmed.
Okay, I know sometimes there's an issue of privacy. What should a parent, what extent should they go to? Should they go through the child's private things? How should they handle this problem?
That's kind of a sensitive subject. I think it's kind of an individual choice. But I would certainly recommend that if a parent suspects that there might be some abuse going on with their child, some substance abuse, that they search the child's room or purse or clothing. But I think the parents should also educate themselves on what to look for so that if they do find something, they'll at least know, if they find something, what it is. A lot of parents don't even know how to begin identifying drug paraphernalia or drugs. And if you do find something and you confront your child and they tell you, this isn't mine, this belongs to someone else. I've been in law enforcement for 12 years, and one of the things you learn over and over again is people that are using or abusing drugs don't trust their drugs or their paraphernalia to other people. If you find something on your child, chances are it belongs to your child.
Okay, so they need to be aware of that. What would you say is the key to prevention?
I think education is the key to prevention. I really believe that kids are given a lot of false information from their peers, that drugs will make them feel better, be better, better looking, especially crack cocaine. There's an intense euphoric feeling with crack cocaine that makes the user feel all-powerful and attractive and all-knowing, and that euphoric feeling follows a deep depression. And crack has become a very popular drug and very affordable for kids on allowances or who don't have a lot of money. So that's something to certainly be aware of and concerned about.
Okay, great. Thanks for mentioning those signs to look for. We need to take another break, and when we return, we'll talk about how you can get DARE in your school and what other steps you should take if you find an addiction problem.
Have you noticed? There's been a drought, and record heat waves have been reported. What's happening? Scientists call it the greenhouse effect, the gradual warming of the Earth caused in part by increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, CO2 that lets the sun's rays in, but traps the heat rising from the Earth. This is Eddie Albert. I urge you to fight the greenhouse effect by planting trees. Our free booklet, Conservation Trees, will show you how.
Do John Fitzgerald Kennedy do solemnly swear?
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute the office of the Presidency of the United States. The office of the Presidency of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability,
Preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
The Constitution, the words we live by.
And we're back on Take 53 with Deputy Sheriff Collette Van Duyne of the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department. Collette, one thing I wanted us to talk about is I think in this upper middle class community of Cupertino, many people still have a problem realizing that there is a serious drug problem. Have you seen this problem on the increase or decrease?
It's increasing nationwide. Cupertino's not an exception to that. The beat officers are seeing an increase in drug use. We're seeing satanic activity, which we hadn't seen before, and we're seeing a tremendous increase in gang activity when you take into account that it was almost non-existent last year, and then this year there's a dramatic increase.
Okay, you mentioned to me earlier that you've been with the Sheriff's Department for 12 years. How long have you been working with the youth on the drug situation?
I've been in the crime prevention unit for 10 months. Prior to that, I was in patrol for 8 years, and most of my patrol experience has been in the city of Cupertino.
Okay, 12 years is a long time. And what changes or trends have you seen during that time?
When I first came out to patrol in 1980 in the city of Cupertino, we didn't see as much cocaine, and we didn't see crack at all. It was almost, well, it was not unheard of back in 1980. And what we're seeing now is an increase in methamphetamines, crystal meth, which is a different form of methamphetamines. We're seeing crack cocaine and cocaine. We're seeing an increase in LSD. Marijuana is still the second most popular drug of abuse, and the number one is alcohol, which we're not seeing any, that's remaining pretty constant, the use of alcohol.
What incidences have you seen among the teens and preteens at the schools and these places that indicate this trend?
I went through the last 3 school years for the 3 high schools in the city of Cupertino, and overall there's been a 59% increase in police response to the Cupertino high schools in the last school year, the 88-89 school year. 59% is a pretty significant increase in responses to these schools. We're also seeing a lot of gang activity. Crips is the ones we're seeing most often in our area, and they're from Los Angeles. And they're recruiting at our junior highs and our high schools. Last Saturday, the 19th of September, we had a San Jose Police Department's jurisdiction, but it was at the Mother's Disco, Stevens Creek in Lawrence. And I'm sure a lot of Cupertino students frequent that disco. There was a drive-by shooting. 25 to 30 rounds were shot in the area, and that's telling me that we're looking at some violence potential here. No one was injured. I don't know how no one was injured, because it's usually pretty crowded at that night and that time. But we're seeing a lot of increase in drug sales, since gangs usually are all about selling drugs and who's going to sell drugs where. So that's certainly something to be alarmed. I'm alarmed, and I think that the citizens should be.
That is, you mentioned that this gang is from Los Angeles. Now, are they forming a gang here in Cupertino, or that seems like quite a distance for a gang to come?
We've received information that, yes, they are forming a gang here in Cupertino. And this is all real new. We don't have a lot of information yet, but I'd have to say that that's what appears to be happening.
So do you directly tie in the new increase gang activity with the increase in drug activity?
Yes, I would say that would be a fair statement. I want to emphasize that Cupertino is not overrun with gangs and drugs and satanic worshipers because people have a tendency to get paranoid when they think that that's what's happening, and that's not what's happening. What we're seeing is an increase. It's a dramatic increase from last year or the year before or 3 years ago, and it's something to be concerned about. And that's one of the things that the Cupertino Drug Council has focused on. And that's why we have prevention programs that we're attempting to implement. One that they're considering now is a youth probation officer. This is still something that they're considering, and they're going to hopefully have it implemented in February of 1990. That's what they're attempting to do. And the city of Cupertino is very aware and very progressive and very well informed and very concerned. So I would say that what the community needs to do is support the city in their decisions when they do look into these things.
Great. You mentioned that the city of Cupertino may be getting a youth probation officer. Is that to deal with these gang members?
That'll be one of the aspects of their responsibilities. What they'll probably be doing is assisting in the schools with children at risk, disciplinary problems. They're still, at this point, it's so new. It's the Cupertino hopefully will have the pilot program, and the responsibilities are still unclear. They're really open to whatever the needs of the city are. So it's hard to say at this point what it will evolve into, but that's one of the things they're considering.
Now, you mentioned children at risk. How do we identify children at risk in our schools?
Children that I would say that have probably disciplinary problems, aggressive behavior, poor grades, poor attendance, the same types of things that parents should look for, involved in criminal activity. Those are kinds of things that would put them at risk.
Okay, great. Thanks for bringing out these things that we need to be aware of. And we need to take a break. When we return, we'll talk about how you can find out about the DARE program in your school.
McGruff here. I want you to learn a song that tells people to say no to drugs. Users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs, don't use drugs. Winners don't use and users don't win. So don't use drugs, don't use drugs. If you know a user even part of the time, tell them to quit, take a bite out of crime. Users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs, don't use drugs. Okay, everybody, if you know a user even part of the time, tell them to quit, take a bite out of crime. Users are losers and losers are users. So don't use drugs, don't use drugs. Nice going. Now teach it to your mom and dad and brothers and sisters and friends to help take a bite out of crime. Don't use drugs.
And we're back on Take 53 with Deputy Sheriff Collette Van Duyne. One thing I wanted to ask is, what is the reaction you've gotten to DARE? Is it having a positive impact on our schools?
I would have to say definitely yes. I find that DARE is the most rewarding thing that I have done in my 12 years. When I'm done teaching DARE I sometimes have DARE for a whole day. The day is usually really an uplifting day for me. I didn't know if I was ready to leave patrol and go teach, and now I don't want to go back to patrol. I enjoy this so much.
That's great. Another aspect of that is, what can the community do to make a positive difference with DARE and with this situation?
Well, I have a DARE fund. When I first came into the DARE program, I had $14 in my DARE fund, and a $35 bill on my desk. So I went and solicited money from the Deputy Sheriff's Association, and they gave me $1,500, which started me off. I was able to buy T-shirts for their graduation gifts, which is the first time I was able to do that. And the kids, that made such a difference with the kids, to get a T-shirt, and I need money to buy pencils and workbooks and DARE buttons and other things that go with the DARE project. So if they would like to give money to the DARE Fund, that would greatly be appreciated. And also find out if your schools have DARE or other drug prevention programs, and if not, find out why not. And get involved in the Cupertino Drug Council. Find out what they're doing.
Okay, so they can get involved in the council and donate money. Is there anything else that they can do? Can parents actually go into the classrooms and take part in these discussions?
I would welcome parents to the drug classes. They're certainly, the DARE classes. They're certainly invited to the graduation ceremonies. I would, if I were to give advice to parents, I would say educate yourself about the signs, symptoms of drug abuse, and if you wonder how to do that, contact your schools. I would be happy to come to PTA meetings and give a brief presentation on symptoms of drug abuse and drug paraphernalia, what it looks like, what to look for. In the junior highs and high schools, I would be happy to do it in any of the Cupertino schools. They do have that available to them, and they should take advantage of it.
That's great. Okay, how can parents, family, friends in Cupertino contact the DARE program to find out more information?
They can contact me at the West Side Station, and the number there is 867-9715.
Okay, great. So they can call you on the phone. And can you arrange special classes for parents at the station, or?
Usually it's done through the schools, because we want to reach the largest number of parents that we can. Of course, the best way to do that would to reach them through their children at the schools. And if they were to attend PTA meetings and request that I come and do a presentation, then whoever would be responsible from that school would contact me, and we would set it up.
Okay, great. I'm sorry we're out of time today. I think we could go on for a lot longer with this subject, but we do need to end. I want to thank you for joining me today on Take 53 with this very important topic that touches our community. And I'd like to thank you for joining me, Susan Robinson, on Take 53.